What is going on, YouTube, and welcome back to another Fridge Financials video. In today's video, this recently popped up on my news feed recently. I think it was on Instagram, and it was Kamala Harris talking about student loans and student loan forgiveness. And as we know, we've heard the discussions and the ideas of Joe Biden wanting to relieve student loan debt and everything else. And I don't have one way or another about student loan relief and everything else, but there was something here that was really interesting that I wanted to bring up here. So if you're excited for today's video, as always, make sure you smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and always turn on the bell notifications for all future uploads. Now, I'm not going to play the video because this is from Earn Your Leisure, and I don't know if there's any kind of copyright restrictions on it, so I'm not going to play the video, but I did pull up the transcript, and it's not the best worded transcript, but basically I do want to summarize what it is that she talked about as the Vice President of the United States and what my thoughts are on it. So this was a podcast, I guess, that was recorded from these two gentlemen here. And Kamala Harris was on the podcast as she was doing, I guess, a tour. She's doing kind of like walking around, or she's kind of like going around the country and talking to people about student loans. This came out in May 7th, so a little over, almost a month ago at this point. And here's the transcript over here, and I want to flash forward. If you watch this video on Earn Your Leisure, feel free to watch the whole thing, but I want to look at the transcript from about 20 minutes onwards here. So it talks about basically, so it says throughout communities kind of missed us, so what is being done now from your side? So to your point, again, this is all generated from YouTube. We know that homeownership is probably the most effective way to build intergenerational wealth. This is coming from Kamala Harris herself at this 20-minute mark, okay? And it just is a fact, and it's just the thing about it in this context as a homeowner then. As a parent, if you have a child that wants to go to, okay, this is what I want to say, go to Howard. I guess she was talking about going to college or whatever. She goes, if you have a child who wants to go to college, she talks about it here. As a parent, then as a homeowner, if you have some equity in your home, you could say to your child, don't take out the loan. I'll take out some of the equity to help you pay for tuition so that you don't graduate with extraordinary student loan debt. So my understanding, my interpretation of what she's talking about here is she's talking about a HELOC. Now, a HELOC stands for the Home Equity Line of Credit. Essentially what a HELOC is it allows you to take the value of your house, if you have equity in your house, and take some of it out in advance as like a loan, essentially, to then use for big expenses, right? So I went on to Bank of America, who's a major lender for these kind of things, just kind of summarize what it is that we're talking about here. So home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC, is a line of credit secured by your home that gives you a revolving credit line to use for large expenses or to consolidate higher interest rate debt on other loans, such as credit cards, right? Credit card debt is obviously, one of the craziest debts that we have in this country. Again, the average credit card debt interest rates, I should say, are like 20%. Some of them are higher than that, which is absolutely ridiculous. So some people might take out a HELOC or home equity line of credit, take that money out, pay off the higher interest debt because the home equity loan has a lower interest rate compared to credit cards, for example. Obviously, please consult your tax advisor regarding this because there are rules that we're going to talk about for tax deductions and everything else. With a HELOC, you're borrowing against the available equity in your home, and the house is used as collateral for the line of credit. So the house is used as collateral for your line of credit. As you repay your outstanding balance, the amount of available credit is replenished, much just like a credit card. So essentially, again, you take out this money of your equity of your house, whatever it is, maybe it's $10,000, $20,000, $40,000, whatever. You can borrow up to 85%, as you see right here. And you're able to basically have it as an expenditure to use for home improvements, to use for large purchases, remodeling, larger debts that have higher interest rates, and all those kind of things there. So that's what basically how a HELOC basically works. You're tapping into that equity of your house without having to wait until you pay off the house entirely. You can take out some of the equity early on, right? A lot of people who do real estate and rental properties, they do a lot with taking out HELOC loans or taking out loans from their house as equity, and they'll use that money they took out to then buy another house and then do it again to buy another house, and they keep doing it that way to buy more and more rental properties. I've seen people do that before. I'm not really much into real estate, but this is the basic about how a HELOC works. Same kind of thing here. That's about qualifying. When you have a variable interest rate on your home equity line of credit, the interest rate can change from month to month. The variable rate is calculated from both an index and a margin. So you can have an option for a fixed rate on a HELOC. Some lenders, including Bank of America, not sponsored by Bank of America, of course. So you can actually do that in this case. And you can get a variable loan, or you can get a fixed interest, or you can get a variable interest rate, or you can get a fixed one, depending on who you're getting your HELOC from. Now, here's where I draw the line here, right? Because this is how I'm interpreting this. And again, I'm not some financial guru. I'm not some financial advisor. I'm not some guy that works on Wall Street, as I've said in my previous videos. This is just my take and my opinion on it. From what Kamala Harris is saying right here in this little transcript right over here, she's essentially talking about basically taking out a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, taking out some of the equity of your house, which is a loan, and paying off tuition instead of having another student loan. So you're basically replacing one loan with another loan. I don't know why you would do that. And to an extent, it makes sense if you're looking at credit cards, because here's what I found out, right? According to Bankrate, your home equity loans, the HELOCs, everything here are your average interest rates that you have right here. So 8.6, 8.7, 8.7, 9.16. And again, these are the ranges between that. So you're looking at between like 8% to 10% for an average home equity loan or a HELOC, either one, right? Taking out a HELOC loan, or taking out a HELOC, taking out this home equity line of credit would make sense with these interest rates. For example, if you have credit card debt, because you can take out this credit, you take out this amount of money, and you can pay back your credit card debt, which has a 20% interest rate. So you're basically almost cutting in half your interest rate payments if you use the HELOC with 9% compared to, and to pay off the credit card with 20%. So you're limiting your interest rate, you're lowering the interest rate on your debt that you now have, which makes sense, 100%. Get rid of this advertisement here. So this is according to studentaid.gov. So this is again looking at financial aid here, FAFSA and stuff like that. So the fixed interest rate that we're looking at right now are about 5 to 7 to 8%. So direct subsidized for undergrads, 5.5%, which is the most common one because you're doing obviously undergrads. If you go back to school afterwards, then 7%, 8%, da-da-da-da. But, you know, majority of people are going to school are going in for undergrads, and they're looking at about 5.5% fixed interest rate according to FAFSA, the Federal Student Aid. So essentially my interpretation of it, and again, you can leave your comments down below as you always do, because I always love to interact with you guys. My interpretation of this is saying take out a loan with 8 to 10% to pay off, to make sure you don't have a student loan with 5.5%. So you're basically increasing the interest rate somehow, which is weird, right? And the difference is, right, with student loans, especially with, I'm trying to remember which one it is. I want to say subsidized. Do not quote me on that. It might be unsubsidized. But one of these two here, subsidized or unsubsidized, you don't have to pay. It doesn't gain interest for the first 6 months after you graduate. So you actually delay your interest a little bit longer. But with a HELOC, you got interest right away. Boom, here it is. Doesn't make any sense. Also, again, you're paying off debt on our debt. And here's we all know this, right? Our debt has been increasing through the moon. Like every single year, it seems like. There's more credit card debt. There's more student loan debt. There's more car loan debt. Like there's all these different debts here that are basically going on here, right? So our debts are always increasing no matter what. That has been a fact, and we've known that for years, right? But you're just taking out loan to pay off the other loan with a higher percent interest rate. Now, obviously, it's variable rate, so maybe it might go to 5%. Maybe you could bring it down. You know, again, I'm not a real estate expert, but initially, I'm reading through the lines of saying, take out a loan to pay off so you don't have a student loan. Okay, interesting. But here's the difference, right? Say you take out a student loan. This is according to Investopedia. Goodness gracious. Say you take out a HELOC to pay off the student debt, so pay off college tuition. So your child doesn't have college tuition, but now you're bearing this HELOC that you have with 8%, 9%, whatever the case is. And you're looking at this. You're like, okay, cool. If you default on this home equity line of credit, if you default on a HELOC loan, it could result in foreclosure of your house. So the risk you're putting yourself at, instead of saying, here's student loans, yes, it's a lower interest rate, but maybe I don't want to put that responsibility on you. Maybe we want to pay it for you and everything else. I'm all for student loan debt being ridiculous. I understand that, right? I had student loan debt myself. I paid mine off. I have friends that have student loan debt. Like, I understand. Like, it sucks to have student loan debt. But having a HELOC with a higher interest rate, to me, doesn't make sense. And also, you have more at risk. The risk is you might lose your house if you default on the HELOC. So, with what's going on here, and again, you can watch this video, you can listen to her talk about it herself because this transcript is awful. It doesn't make any sense to me. This is the vice president of the United States saying this. That's kind of terrifying to me because, like, I understand that Joe Biden's his election year was focusing a lot on trying to do student loan relief, student loan forgiveness, all that kind of stuff there. I get it. This doesn't make any sense. You're basically taking a loan out so you don't have another loan, but you're taking out this loan to have a higher interest rate, which also puts you at risk of foreclosure, which means you could possibly lose your house if you don't pay the loan back. Okay. So, yeah, I watched this and I was like, I can't believe this. So, yeah. Kamala Harris. Crazy. So yeah, I wanted to bring this to your attention because that's obviously just a little bit of just a weird thing I saw today. And, I read some comments on it and people were like, yeah, that makes no logical sense. So, I'm looking at the same thing. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? But, if you are any sort of real estate expert, if you know a lot about real estate, obviously I'm not a real estate agent. I don't know much about the real estate field as much. I'm just looking at the basics of things. If there's more to a HELOC that I'm not familiar with, please make sure to leave it down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear all of your opinions and your feedback, of course, because I'm always trying to learn new stuff. I know my last video that I posted about the economy and how people think it's bad when I thought it was good, but I've had some really interactive discussions with people, and it really helps me look at different perspectives of things. So obviously, leave your comment section down below. If you made it this far in the video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell notifications, as I always say, and make sure that you thumbs up this video. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope this brought some insight into what Kamala Harris is saying, which is really bizarre. Hope you guys are making money in the market as always, and I will see you guys in the next video.